What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GoBundance Podcast, where we feature GoBundance members and extract their wisdom and information on how they became whole life millionaires. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber. Today, I welcomed in a guy that I've gotten to know and really have a ton of respect for. He's given me amazing advice over the years, and that is Jake Harris. He is an author, an entrepreneur, a multifamily, and actually commercial syndicator. He's in a lot of different things, and he's done a lot of amazing things in his career. And we talked a lot about that, where he is today versus where he was prior to 2008, what he learned, the wisdom he extracted from the meltdown in 2008, and how he lost it all back then, and how he's rebounded multiple times as far as his net worth and just what he's working on in life. We'll talk about how he's worked out over 600 days in a row so far, and why that is such a priority for him, and how he human hacks himself, knows who he is, and puts things in place that sort of systematize, things so that he doesn't have to worry about thinking too much about them. We'll also talk about what he got from a pretty long and storied collegiate career, both undergrad as well as his postgraduate work, and also what he learned from the military, what he extracted from his time in the military. So all of that and a ton more with an amazing, amazing guest. Check him out. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, drop a comment, let us know what you took away. But until then, enjoy this amazing interview with Jake Harris. Welcome, Jake Harris.
Thank you, man. Those accolades don't seem like me. I'm just a dude that found a bunch of other dudes that like doing wild and crazy stuff and living life full out.
And you've done that, and there's a lot to pull out of your book and your story. And I want to start there. What is the background of Jake Harris? Give us kind of the broad strokes here. You can go back as far as you want to, but just sort of take us through your life up until now and some of the things that have been impactful for you.
So I'm a Scorpio. I like long romantic walks to the taco stand. So let's see. Peel that back. I was born in Denver. I grew up most of my life in Northern California. My parents got divorced when I was in high school, and then I moved back to Denver for a little bit of time. Came back to Northern California. I joined the Army, did air assault infantry stuff. Actually, between my junior and senior year, I went, and there was a program called a delayed entry program. So I went to basic training when I was 17 years old, and I went down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and was like, wow, what did I get myself into? After that, after I graduated, went down to Fort Benning and basically redid all of basic training and boot camp again because it was infantry and it was just kind of a different program. But then after the Army, actually, so just kind of giving you highlights, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad as I was kind of getting out of the Army, and it was kind of like that aha, one of those light bulb kind of moments. Really tapped into a lot of my skill sets and things that I really wanted to do. Going to school, undergrad in entrepreneurship, which is interesting. I was one of my goals with that was by the time I got my bachelor's degree, I wanted to be able to spell entrepreneurship. It's French. Like the letters are all whacked out and stuff. And I still all the time misspell it. It is crazy.
I just did too. I just wrote it down. I think I misspelled it, but
yeah, I think there's an E and a U and an A and a something other. I spell it all the time. So I have a degree in entrepreneurship. And then I went off to grad school in international real estate and finance down at FIU in Miami. Specifically really focused on real estate investing and development. That kind of covers the education part of it, but I'm a California real estate broker. Like I said, I've been doing real estate investing, as my primary job for probably getting close to 20 years. I think it's been 18. It was early 2000s when I really started doing that. After the Army, a little snippet in bartending at a golf course in the country club. I wanted to be around rich guys and ask them advice, but I didn't have the ability to join the country club, but I was able to serve them drinks and hang out and get advice. I ultimately, from the advice of one of those people, was I got into construction. He said, everybody, he's like, if you aspire to do real estate, everything real estate has a contractor involved. And so I kind of went into that commercial construction. You can read more elements of that within the book, what I did in that commercial space. And then I started flipping houses and then grew from there to being a millionaire before 30, to then losing it all and the subprime meltdown, to praying that I was worth no money, and basically retooling and starting back over and kind of building back better on a more, robust foundation. And then that was really one of the things, the introspective aspect of that life of losing, money, which was the least significant of that, was how bankrupt I was in every other pillar of my life, relationships and health and adventure. And I was just so myopically focused on the grind of becoming this millionaire before 30 that I didn't actually, do anything else. And so I think it's a tremendous blessing that I got that opportunity to experience that at a young age and to reset, because, maybe if I'd skipped over that, it would have resulted in a divorce or kids, a family breaking up. And I didn't have that being in my 20s. So flipped a lot of houses, 1,200-1,400 homes in 23 states. We do commercial real estate primarily, is most of what we do. So have some new construction, hotels, apartments, like you said, syndications, conversions, adaptive reuse, converting warehouses or offices to multifamily, modernization of office buildings. And so again, that is all driven off of real estate. This is what I do. I have some investments in some other ancillary businesses as far as capital markets, architectural, construction companies that fulfill and ultimately building out the whole kind of vertical aspect of the real estate, because I plan on doing this for another 100 years. And because of that, I want to build a system that, can expand and contract to, those levels.
So a word that comes to mind for you when I think of the brand of Jake Harris, and you probably don't even understand or realize how much this is applied from you to me in the time that we've gotten to know each other. The word I think about is wisdom, right? You seem to value wisdom. You put yourself in positions to extract wisdom, like you did with working at a country club and trying to be around rich guys, like you said. So I want to kind of take that piece, because I think your gift, my opinion, from what I know of you, your gift is that you are able to either reflect back, or maybe you do it in the moment, determine what you're taking from something, or what what learnings you've taken. You just have a way of sort of squeezing that out. So let's go back to military. I want to start with that first piece. Why join, and what did you take from your experience in the military that that you apply today, or that you are shy away from today? But like, what's some wisdom you took from your time in the military, and why join?
Yeah. So my kind of whole family is involved, or has been in the past involved, in law enforcement. From the top levels, chief of police, commander, air operations, SWAT teams, search and rescue, dive, everything like that. I didn't want to go into law enforcement. It was seeing that aspect of it is you become really a little bit of a misanthrope, as far as, because you're seeing the worst of society on a daily basis. And so you begin to, have this kind of negative connotation on outlook on life. And I think that's actually a challenge that we're facing right now in this day and age, is there's so much negative in the social media and the media and everything like that, that people think it's a lot worse than it is in a reality. And so from seeing that and growing up as a law enforcement son, is seeing how everything is kind of in this negative, jaded light. So the military to me was an alternative to that. I wanted to serve. I wanted to give, value out there to the world. I thought it was cool to go jump out of airplanes and do that stuff. Not quite what it translates to is they show you action videos and you're doing it and you're like, yeah, that looks awesome. And that was like super, super small sliver of the actual things that you did. It was a lot of suck. Like, the military mostly sucks. Like, you're carrying super heavy stuff. You're in some of the worst environments, climate, jungle, cold, freezing, swamps. Like, it's mostly suck. So that was what my takeaway was, is that I can do things that suck. And you just put one foot in front of the other. I remember a time we were down in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and no offense to some people, but there are vast portions of Louisiana that I think we should give back to the French, like it's not great. Like it is terrible. There's bugs, water moccasins, chiggers, poison sumac, like you're up to your armpits in swamps. And so looking at that was, you don't have to like it, but you got to do it. And so to me, at a young age, going through that is something that I hope to instill in my kids. Is it's not about, you don't have to do everything that you like. There's times that you have to do stuff you don't like, and it's gonna suck, but you got to do it anyway.
Makes sense. Now take me to college and post-grad, or graduate, I should say. You it seems like studied what you're doing now: entrepreneurship, undergrad, and I think you said international real estate and something else very fancy in grad school. I don't remember exactly what you said. I wrote down what I could. But do you find, what did you extract from that, and how relevant is it to what you're doing today? Is it like, hey, without those things, without those degrees, today would be very difficult? Or is there, I'll just let you.
So part of that was not just straight out of military. That was actually, up until, I don't know 4 or 5 years ago that, I finished. So I was already doing the career kind of things. And I was like, I was like, hey, college is worthless. Like, I don't actually really need this. But then it was like, I really wanted that graduate program, as far as in that international real estate and finance or something specifically to that, is I wanted to continue to elevate. And especially in hindsight of the subprime meltdown, when I was like, all right, I did some things well. And then really what it was is like when we were selling off some portfolios to Invitation Homes, which is Blackstone's, single family rental portfolio, is like they were just doing things that I just didn't quite understand. And so, and in that process of entrepreneurship, undergrad, and then real estate, international real estate, was it really like learning a new language? And it was really the language of private equity or institutional capital. Is, how do you manage a portfolio of properties? And so before, like, I was really good at the stuff in the trenches. Like, I could save you, 11 cents a linear foot on baseboard. And, my construction costs, because I came from the kind of the construction, like I got things down to the gnat's ass as far as on, conservative, construction, rehab, or, turning over properties. But then like Blackstone was macro correct. They were paying, it didn't really matter what the construction cost was. They were playing a different multiple. They bet $10 billion on the industry and made $9 billion profit. I was micro correct and, did this on a few houses. And so I saved, $3,700 on this one house. And it was just like, wait a minute, I'm not playing a big enough game. And so that's what college for me, being very intentional with those programs that I was seeking out, was, hey, I want to elevate what I do. And then ultimately, because I'm looking at this long term, is I believe that, like I said before, I'm doing this for the next 100 years. I don't think this is going to hurt me. I already have read almost all the books, that exist on real estate, and I continue to do them and find older and older books, and more, things come out all the time. And it was very, very helpful. Now, from the difference is, had I not had that versus having it, I think it would just look different of what I was doing today. And I am a product, and there's so many times that a single person can completely change the trajectory of your life. Is they pour a little bit of insight into you, a little bit of nugget that you pick up from them, like literally can change the entire course of your entire life from that point forward. And so to me, that's what some of those elements were. I don't even know what my life would be like, had I not done those things, but to me, there was a lot of value in it.
Yeah, we had a recent conversation that just landed for me, and I don't mean to continue to stomp on this, but it means a lot to me. We had a recent conversation where you gave me, I think, that nugget, that piece of wisdom, as I've said, is your brand, that I do believe could set the course of my life. So maybe in a year, I'll revisit this and say, there you go, Jake Harris, you just paid it forward big time. On that piece of wisdom, a lot of it manifests in this book, right? All of the wisdom that you've taken in your career really pours down to catching knives. Talk about how you arrived at writing a book on distressed commercial real estate. Why focus there? Why is that such an important dynamic to you?
Yeah, so I think it's really what I've kind of realized is that's just the starting point and one of the legs of what we do. So distressed investing is primarily how I, focused in on the world. There's now we're starting to work and map out a second book and a third book that'll come out, maybe in a year or two and beyond that. It really was GoBundance that I was sitting down in a room and I was sitting, next to, I think, Pat and David and some other people. And I was like, I want to say 75% of the people that I was sitting at, or maybe at a table, like had written a book. And people were like, oh, who's here written a book? And like all these people raised their hands and I kind of like looked around and I was like, wait, should I write a book? I was like the peer pressure and the way of like, I didn't really necessarily think about it before. And so that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And then I was like, maybe I need to write a book. And one of the things that I think is a challenge in most aspects of people's lives is, especially as they're starting to grow their personal brand, is obscurity. And so by taking that, obviously, the mentors and the guidance of the elders and Pat and David and the way that they're just kind of leading forward and trailblazing this it became pretty easy as like, oh, well, I'll do that too. And that what is manifest into that book, which is now, really the first book, is to continue to invest in that IP, my own personal IP. And how do I continue to bring that and maybe that continues on every couple of years. I'll release another book until, perpetuity. I don't know. But at least it was a challenging but rewarding experience thus far. And I mean, we're really only 3 months into the release, and it took me probably 9 months to a year before that actually released. So.
Makes sense. No, it's great, and I think there's a ton of great stuff in here that people can take away in the space that you intended it for, distressed commercial real estate. And I love that you're going to have other legs, like you said, released. You might challenge Lupo. I think he's at 12 books, Damian Lupo, something like that. So you're going to be pushing him.
Yeah, them and like Brandon Turner and those people are like machines. Like I was like, I still actually make way more money at my day job as far as doing the real estate stuff. So I would love to get to that place to where it was, just crushing it out there. But, it is part of a system in which I'm building out. And what I'm finding is that it's super, or at least helpful to a handful of people. It's getting decent sales and decent reviews. And I think that was only a few of them were my mom, that bought them. So it was like, I don't think actually my wife has actually read it. She lives it. So it's not like, and I would go home and like read a chapter to her and she was like,
Yeah.
But
that's awesome. No, that's great. No, I love it. And I think that's a great pivot point for us to dive into the one sheet here. We're going to go pillar by pillar through the different areas. And we're starting with horizontal income. And I want to put this to you because you are a very active investor or a very active businessman in the investment space is probably a better way to put it. What do you consider to be horizontal income? I want to ask that first and foremost because you do a lot of things actively. What is horizontal to you? What sort of ventures create horizontal income for you?
Yeah. So I would say some of it is, obviously my active job is real estate. And so what I consider horizontal income are some of those properties that I own that are property managed, other things like that are just kind of spinning in some income. And then some of the businesses that I'm invested into that I'm not running. I don't run the day to day. Like I may get in on a call maybe a couple times a month or, every, quarter, maybe it's an annual meeting kind of, partners meetings or twice a year kind of meeting. So I consider those horizontal income. So some of the properties that I own, then some of those business investments, and really I'm just starting to emerge into investing into other people's deals, which is a new thing for me. Because I get a lot more return on my own deals and investing into my own investment. So there's a certain aspect of that, like we have a fund or some of these funds that also are generating some horizontal income, call it, because it's like some fund fees and some other things like that. But it's kind of gray because it's also a little bit of what I do from an active job. So, I mean, there's ways that I can kind of categorize that or not. I tend to skew that more towards the vertical because that's my actual day job.
Got it. From a horizontal income perspective, what percentage of that is covering what percentage is covering your ordinary expenses at this point?
So I'm about 150%, as far as my expenses. Most of that is because, I have very low expenses. It was in a response to, losing everything in, 08, or 07, 08, that collapse of it is when I started just building back. It was on a very, very low cost basis. And a lot of the things that I bought, I either paid for with cash, or, very low mortgage, kind of rates. So like primary residence, I think we only owe like $100,000 on our primary residence, and it's at 3% interest, and like the payments under $1,000 a month. Taxes, fortunately, I have a lot of commercial real estate, so cost segregation and depreciation and other things like that. So, relatively low taxation. As far as we have a big deal that I'm targeting to close out by the end of the year. I don't know if I'll have enough, kind of accumulated carry, forward losses and some depreciation that may be a tax bill. So that's where it kind of fluctuates a little bit. But, my expenses, my biggest expense annually is my international travel that I do with my family. We do an international trip every year. We try to target a month. And we spend on that. I mean, that's typically a $20,000, $30,000 kind of, trip. And so I'm saying 100,000, 150,000 has kind of been my annual expenses when you layer all those things in. And then, north of 200, 250 is about where horizontal income, again, has some fluctuations. COVID 2020 I didn't draw much out. I kind of poured a lot of it back into the businesses. Yeah. We laid a few people off, and I just felt like it was more responsible to kind of pour those back into the companies. And so, but again, it was probably right around that 200,000 on the horizontal.
Makes sense. Okay. From a net worth perspective, you went from millionaire prior to 30 down to 0. And I think in the book you outlined that you've kind of come back and then some. Net worth today, to what extent you're comfortable sharing, but where are you today, and do you have a goal? Do you target net worth as a goal for yourself?
Yeah. So I have a goal by the end of this year to be 8 figures, to be 10 million. And so I'm getting close to there. So, I mean, I would say, depending on some valuations, like I said, some of those took a little bit of a hit during COVID, but then actually I think they've roared back in some other direction. Some of my office holdings are still relatively flat, but some of the land holdings have actually increased. That, like I said, I have a land deal about for 3.5 million 18 months ago. Should sell it for 6.5 million at the end of this year. And so that would be a nice little, chunk, and it would be there to kind of realize that I wasn't carrying on the books at that number. So, I mean, probably 8.5 to 9.5 million, depending on where some valuations on some of those properties came out right now on a net worth level. I do not have my updated Q2. So that's why I'd say it's in that 8.5, 9.5 million kind of range for net worth.
Makes sense. No, I got it. And then from a percentage of net worth, like the distribution, would you say, look, it's real estate pretty much all of it, or do you intentionally try to put yourself into businesses? Obviously, I mean, is there crypto, gold? So you're just kind of curious if you have any sort of sense of the distribution of net worth.
Yeah, it's almost all real estate. I've, like I said, started taking a few things to kind of put it in other places. So yeah, a couple 100,000 in crypto. Maybe that's, I don't know, Fugazi. Maybe it's worth a nickel today. Maybe it's worth $1 million. I don't know, 30. But it's going down. It feels like it's, by the time this is recording, is, I don't know, maybe it's, 80,000, it was a couple 100,000. Now it's 80. I don't know. So that was some investments that I did. Part of it was high level. I understand where it's kind of going as that space, and I wanted a little bit of exposure to it. It is not my, and it's one of those just kind of set it and forget it kind of things. And I'm not necessarily reallocating. I might, with this kind of dip, throw some more money at it anyway, because I think it has some long-term legs to it. And then, like I said earlier, I'm just now starting to invest in some other people's and some businesses. So I don't know if you saw, I was just down in Colombia, touring through Adam, his green coffee company. So yeah, I'm doing an investment into that company. It is not real estate. It is, outside something that I could kind of control. And that's where maybe one of the challenges is GoBundance, or a lot of the people I primarily know are real estate focused, a lot of their syndication, their deals. And I was like, I tend to pour in my investment into my own deals. But I'm looking at other ways to invest into some of those other entities. And then the other net worth is associated to affiliated kind of companies, a capital markets group, an architectural company, a construction company, but I'm like the number one customer or client of that. So there's certain ties to that. So I would say that's 20-ish, 30% of the net worth is businesses or those outside. And then the other, whatever 80 to 90% is real estate related as far as my net worth. And so I'm very, very heavy into that aspect. I don't have any gold. I don't have, any stocks. I'm just all in on real estate.
Yeah. Hey, your lane, where to go. And now you're, like you said, you're starting to look at other things, and that green coffee does look very interesting. I did see your post on that, so I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to health. What does your current weight and body fat percentage look like?
So currently I'm at 185. I would say I am right around 14 to 15%. Really when I'm at 175, I'm just under 14%. So I'm again speculating a little bit, adding at that 185. That's coming off of a lot of vacation. I was in Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Atlanta, Boise, and Colombia. And so, but my goal is right around that weight. It's actually a body fat percentage, and it's really more so as a habit. I work out every day. I'm a little over 600 days in a row. Part of that was Ken Wimberly, he's in my GoPod, but also kind of my just fitness accountability thing. He was just like, why don't you work out every day? I did that a couple years ago, and I worked out about 100 days in a row. And then I was like, we did another trip to Spain and Portugal. And while I was walking, I wasn't really necessarily working out. But when I got back from that, I was like, oh, I'm going to do every other day. I won't miss 2 days in a row. Well, I've just found out, my own hacking of myself is I suck at that. I suck at knowing what day it is, if I worked out today or if it was yesterday, and so I'm much better at being kind of binary of I'm all in or all out, like no carbs, or like just be like, hey, if I just work out every day, it's actually much easier for me to work out every single day. And then that translates to the better health. And also working out, that, man, took me 35, 40 minutes to go run those, 500 calories worth. And all of a sudden you see something and you're like, 500 calories, you know how hard that was to work to get that 500 calories. So it's just like, it's easier. It becomes that one thing that makes everything else easier or relevant. And again, my goal is that under 14% body fat. and, where that lands on weight is less important to me.
Post vacation, free family expansion. This is probably the window within which to hit it, right? This is probably your window before things get a little crazy again.
Yeah.
We shall see. So let's keep on exercise for a moment. You said every day for 600 plus days, which you've been very, very regimented with that. What's the workout look like? Is that like, hey, you know what? Today I did 20 push-ups. That's my workout. Or do you have a specific regimen that you stick to on a daily basis?
So I also set some goals as far as, last year I did, I think, 1,100 miles, or maybe it was 1,050. I wanted to increase that by 10%. So I have over 1,200 miles that I want to do running. And so I, worked backwards. And so I was like, that's 3.3 miles a day. So that is the kind of ideal workout, is that I'm doing, more than 3 miles in a given day. Life's challenging sometimes. So, it might be a mile and a half. Some days I can get in longer and I can get 4, 5, 6, miles in. So that, and really it equates out to, call it close to a 30-minute workout that I'm sweating. And, and really I'm focusing on the miles, not so how fast I am or how many push-ups or other things. Before I started lunging for a long time, I started doing push-ups. I kind of just add different flavors to that throughout the year, but the consistent thing is getting the miles in.
Got it. Makes sense. That's awesome. Man, my wife is on that tear right now. She wants to do a marathon. So she's running like a crazy woman. So
yeah. And I do intermittent fasting most every day. And I do a low kind of carb, diet. So really it's a layering effect of this. And this started a few years ago when I was like, I'm like super awesome at making excuses for myself. You flew in, the kid was up late, you got this meeting, you should not work. You should eat this food. And so really what it was is I was sitting down, and I think I was with I don't remember, if it was Breckenridge or Steamboat or one of the places. And I was sitting there with David Laver, and we're kind of sitting out, and I was like, I'm really good at bullshitting myself. Like, fitness is, my health is going to be a focus from kind of here on out. And so, I was probably, 210, 215 on weight. And then I just said, hey, I'm going to really focus on that. And that kind of brought back down to the 175, the 180 range and the percentage of body fat. And so that started the intermittent fasting, the keto, low carb kind of diet. And that's just kind of my lifestyle now. It's pretty relatively easy for me to maintain that.
I like the human hacking, because it is true. Like, we talk about systems and processes in business, but we are a human system. So you were looking at ways to hack that human system and achieve the goal by building habits. We talk about it in Emerge all the time, right? That's kind of what the point of Emerge is set a goal and then establish the habits that make you not even achieve that goal, I guess, to some extent, but become the person that you visualize becoming, right? Like, I'm going to do today what the person tomorrow that I want to be does right now. I'm going to do it now. And then one day you look back and you're like, holy cow, I'm down from 210 to 180 or 175. My body fat's down to 14% or less. So I think that's a great point.
So, and I think the other thing is use who you are, as far as someone you're like, Jake, you're super stubborn, be like, so use that. And don't necessarily think of that as a negative. I think everything is that we're all addicts in some way or the other. And so then how do you use that for yourself? And so it's like that stubborn is that I'm going to hold to, as I say, I work out every day. So I'm stubborn that I'm going to work out every single day, come hell or high water, rolled your ankle, tough, you got COVID, doesn't matter. Get up, drag yourself around the park. It's like, whatever that is, it is those things to use yourself for your own benefit. And so for that was not, and like I said, it becomes easier and easier because it is already who you are. You're becoming a more authentic to yourself by utilizing, what you are, and like you said, you can manifest that reality of the future. But I think it becomes long-term when it's more aligned with, your own natural MO.
I like that. I'm going to send you a video. Yesterday, we had Dr. John D. Martini speak to Ascend, and what you just described, authenticity being you. It was an hour and a half, like masterclass on that. So I'll send it to you if you decide to
Awesome.
watch it. Go for it.
Yeah.
But that's really on point with a lot of lessons I'm learning recently. So appreciate you diving in on that. How about your family? You mentioned wife, couple kids. Give us a little bit more about what your family dynamic look like. And I know it's expanding, so feel free to share.
Yeah. So married, Christy is a amazing mother. She is also a NICU nurse. She works part-time days, so she only has to work 4 days a month. So, but primarily she is a mother. We have two boys. Hudson is 6, Maverick is 3. And then as you alluded to, we have a third on the way, due August 12th. So we don't know what it is, a boy or a girl. We're praying for a girl because, at least we got a couple boys we'd like to see. I'd like for my wife to experience having a girl, but she's also, I think, a little bit nervous about the opportunity of having a girl. She's like, I kind of know what boys and how to work with those. So whatever happens is a blessing. I think the ingredients are already there. We just don't know. And then I will have as many kids as my wife lets me. I was and still am very attracted to her, and I like the act of making them. And I will, and let's be honest, she's the default parent that's at home while I'm chasing down real estate deals and going down to Colombia or Puerto Rico or Texas or wherever I have some deals going. But there's still a lot of focus, and I'd say 75% of my time is still focused on being home and being with a family. And I do those things of traveling and adventuring all over the world, but it's much more in very concentrated, super laser focus as I'm there for a purpose, not necessarily gallivanting around away from my family.
I love it. I love the notion that I will continue to have kids because it's fun to do so. Just want to make sure there are ways to have the fun without the kids.
Kids are awesome, man.
Okay, all right.
Kids are awesome. Like I was like, my buddy, he told me, he's like, wait till they get older. They're better when they're older. And I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, from my standpoint is kids have been awesome. Every cliche that they say about them, as far as it's going to change your life, your perspective, it's going to be hard, it's going to do that, is true.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. And so I was very, very blessed that, my wife, she was actually still working graveyard shifts as a NICU and full-time at the time. So at 4 months, I think she went back to work. So with Hudson, 6 years ago plus, she went back to work. And so I was home for 3 or 4 nights out of the week that she was working. And so she would leave at, 6 o'clock at night and not be home until 8 o'clock the next morning. Mm-hmm. And so I was with Hudson all night long, as far as, and then I would go to work the next day, work my job. So like he would be crying and be, he wasn't talking at that 4 months old, but, I want mom. And I was like, I want mom. Like, same, like, yeah. So that bonding that I got from feeding him and, getting him to, fall asleep, and then doing those things for several months of his, kind of infancy, was such an amazing and magical moment that I feel like not a lot of dads get that opportunity to do. And for me, I think that maybe bonding moment that created that, I got like a little sliver of a snippet of what maybe mothers do. And it was just like, this is awesome. Like, this is unbelievable. And I'm still blown away by like sitting there, because Christy's now 8.5 months pregnant, that it was like, think about like how this kind of happened. And then just like a baby, like forms in this thing. And like, it was just like, this is such a miracle. This is so crazy. Like, this is just, it blows my mind. The process of all of that, and then having kids. And they say that 30% of your kids are going to actually like you. So I was like, so I might just need to up those numbers so that I got a few that actually, be like, dad's a cool guy, and it was like, somebody's got to wipe my butt in 100 years, The other ones that throw me in a home and throw away the key because they're like, Dad's crazy.
Well, you're going to have 3, so you have that shot. You got 1 and 3, right? Like we have 2 boys, 6 and 3, same age, and that was it. That's that. I mean, I love them to death, but God bless you for expanding past that. And one quick aside here, I think we need to work on your branding opportunity here. You said she did all this while I was out building the business, this, that, and the other. It's a simple thing you should be saying here. She was doing that while you were out catching knives.
Catching knives, yeah, right? That's true.
There you go. On that, let's transition to you look disappointed in me for even bringing that up. So I'm going to keep moving.
No. I was like, I got to get you that catching knives shirt too. So to get your branding. Yeah.
Wear it the whole 9. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Genuine contribution. What do you give back, or what percentage do you give back? Whatever way you want to take that.
So
money,
I target 10% of my vertical. Actually, no, it starts at 10% of all income as far as gross kind of income. Primarily that's given through the church. But I almost say yes to anybody that asks or like will put up together stuff like, hey, I'm raising birthday for this. And we're actually, and part of one of the things that we look for is when we're on these trips, these international trips, is that we look for opportunities to where we can help somebody or something in some way. And so we were down in Peru and we met up, we were, I think, waiting on a flight for a long period of time. And there was like this, I think she was a missionary, maybe kind of thing, doing medical kind of work in some of these remote villages out in Peru, and connected up. And so we've been, sponsoring her as far as giving money annually, doing, some loans, microloans, a lot of Latin American kind of countries, and women especially, and just some criterias. And so, yeah, target 10% as far as that give, and then give it a decent chunk to One Life as well, to Tim and what he's doing with giving people the educational awareness of, man, like you're not stuck in this rut. Like you can get out, like there's light, just climb out, figure out and manifest it. And so, yeah, I'd say One Life, the church, and then other opportunities, because I just really believe that none of this money is mine. It's, it's a blessing that's been given to me. And let's be honest, money's fake. It's not real. It's cool to keep a score on a scoreboard and things like that, but it's, it's not mine. I'm just a pass through.
Love it. I love it. Great perspective on that. How about your GoPod? Who's in it and what are you currently discussing?
So my GoPod, it's interesting. So some of the guys are a little bit older as far as than where I am. So they're at different stages of some of their lives. So Nate Martinez, Brian Wentz, and Ken Wimberly, and that Pat Cullinan. And these are some kind of OG, kind of GoBundance guys that have been around for a long, long period of time. So different aspects. I think it really, it is like, I feel like we've been through a lot of ups and downs in different directions. Some of them had some, relationships, marriages that fell apart. Some of them, focus on health. Ken, is launching his Legacy of Love as far as building that app and building it as far as, kind of on his side hustle and watching that evolve over the years. Just insights and pouring into it, as well as, Pat, kind of semi-retired, kind of looking and pouring more into the couples, aspect of it, and international travel. And so, it's a very kind of diverse sect of GoBundance as a whole. And then I think from a thing as the NorCal tribe has, weekly calls as far as check-ins. And I've got a lot of value out of that as far as being on those weekly and getting experience feels like almost a fire hose of new people. And then the combination of the champions events and some of those being more active, participation. And I have a few friends that we've started pulling out, of those that, like Paresh and I, traveled to Colombia. We've done some other trips together, like connecting up and, grab dinner here and there. And so it's just, a very, very broad spectrum of things that we've discussed over the last several years.
Very cool. Yeah, ours does the same, kind of ebbs and flows. And sometimes we're deep on stuff. Sometimes it's a little bit more just kind of catching up and making sure we're kind of moving forward. So, and Pat's talked about that. Like the pods aren't always like, boom, boom, boom. They do. They kind of, they waver, they go here and there. But at the end of the day, I derive a ton of value, as I know you do. How about from an adventure standpoint? What's up and coming for you? What's the next adventure for Jake and or the Harris family besides the baby?
Yeah, that's a pretty big one. Next adventure, we're starting to look because it's interesting. So getting over, saying that, hey, we want to do this international trip. And as far as really, like I as a parent, I'm trying to prepare my kids to be good adults. And I think that experiencing life, and this travel is the best way they can do that in a small, short period of time that they're not going to gain or garner from a YouTube video. And so now what we're looking at is, next year's trip. We went to Costa Rica this year, discussing. I think it may be Colombia, just because of the investments, the things that we're looking to do down there. We also are targeting countries that we haven't gone to before. So now we've opened up a new dynamic of, two of the kids haven't been to Mexico, or the new one and Maverick. So we're also discussing, it's our own made up rules. So we're like, maybe Mexico. And so we might just rent a place for a month or 6 weeks in Mexico City and use that as kind of a hopping point, because it's super easy for me to get up from Mexico City to San Antonio, where a lot of my projects are. I mean, I think it's only like a 90-minute flight or something like that. So it's pretty fast. And even with those trips, I may be able to peel off in those aspects. So I don't know. We're starting to discuss that. I'm going to go down to Baja. I'm looking at some locations that I would maybe consider doing a hotel. I'd like to do something on the ocean or, kind of beach hotel-esque, and Pescadero, La Paz, Todos Santos, or areas that I've been kind of identifying, but that's probably going to be post baby. And so that would be later this year that I do a travel trip down there. And, from adventure, that's where travel really typically is those things. I have an overarching goal of by the end of, I think it's the end of next year, my 3-year vision was to have visited 30 countries. I actually have not counted up how many I've got, but we'll see. I think maybe I can add a few more into there. Maybe I got to do a run and hit up multiple countries in that short time period.
Central America area, like you can ping a bunch of them. There's Belize and Panama.
Yeah, I also want to climb some of the 7 summits, and so get over to Tanzania. Like that Australia trip was interesting, but now they're on like Uber lockdown, and you can't even get in the country, and it's like, so there's some travel challenges, but from an adventure, mostly it's travel.
Very cool. Well, hey, man, this has been amazing. I'm going to wrap this up with a question from the GoBundance card deck. This is the Jack of Spades. And the question is, if you only had 90 days left to live, what one piece of unfinished business would you need to resolve?
Man, so what unfinished business would I need to resolve?
Yeah, I don't think business in a broad sense.
Yeah, no, it's just like, what item or one thing. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really sure, because there's, a lot of things. I think I'd spend most of it as far as, kind of sharing some wisdom for my kids, as far as preparing their lives, as far as to be without me. I think I probably, lead, the family quite a bit as far as the direction of our goals, where we're kind of heading, these new countries, these new adventures, and helping them kind of prepare for that, being that they're 6 and 3 and my wife, what to do. Most of the business stuff I think would ultimately solve itself. These are partnerships and other things. I have capable people that can do that. I'm sure there would be some forms of issues. Most of my relationships are pretty good. I tell people often how much I love them, how grateful I am for them. But man, I think that'd be the hardest thing is knowing that I wouldn't be there for my kids. And then how can I help them, prepare for that life without me in it. But ultimately, I think even with like the front row dads component is that, I'm going to be in the front row. I can't live their life for them. How do I cheerlead them? But there's a certain aspect I wish I would be able to coach them more to that point before they were, facing the gauntlets of life. So I would say the 90 days would be spent on helping to, them to give some guidance and some wisdom out there. That's, I think, also layers into part of the aspect of those books. Doing these podcasts, doing, other interviews is there's little bits and nuggets of things that maybe exist out into the world that can give them insight. And that's even like I wish I was better at that, like what Ken Wimberly and the Legacy of Love is journaling specifically for each one of those individual kids. The illusion of life and humanity is that we think we have more time.
Yeah, it's true. You just don't know.
You don't know when you're going to go. I mean, get struck by lightning tomorrow, or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Amen. Again, appreciate everything. Where can people find the book, and where can they maybe learn more about you and what you're doing? Where do you want to direct folks?
Yeah, catchknives.com is, probably the best place to connect through that. It's on Amazon, and I guess that's wherever you buy books, physical books now. Working on the audiobook now. So that'll be later this year that comes out. Jake.realestate on Instagram is probably the most active place that I am from a social media. And then, connect up, via the different websites and businesses and things that I do. Like I said, we're doing real estate professionally. So we typically always have some kind of deal or fund or investment that we have going on. Obviously, it depends on what time period that you're looking into this, or watching this video. But right now we're doing a hotel on the Riverwalk in San Antonio with a very Latin American, artist vibe, luxury boutique, and super excited about that opportunity to kind of pour that out, creative juices into the world, into a hospitality kind of driven space.
Love it. Can't wait to visit it for sure. So Jake, thanks again, man. I appreciate you giving all of what you gave today. It's always insightful for me personally to just kind of listen to you and listen to your story. I pick up something new every time. So appreciate you, brother. And won't see you in Steamboat. Congrats. This is probably being released around the time your baby's going to be born. So Congrats on the baby in advance. And we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know down in the comments, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be informed on the next episode and other content right here on this channel. Thank you.